You gotta let it go, let it go, let it go. I'm feeling so cold that my heart just got frozen. Gotta let it go. So here you're supposed to cut me off. Here I
Hello, hello, gentle viewers. We're here with, I believe, episode 19 of Mazecast, but we're going to be looking at room number 18 because we're feeling a little contrary today, and we're going to be continuing with the Halloween theme of the month. We're going to be looking at what I think is one of the very spookiest rooms in the entire maze, which is room 18, otherwise known as the fireplace room, the one with the big, scary fireplace dude who's just staring at you all terrifying like. So there's been a lot of discussion about this room, a lot of recent discussion and a lot of past discussion, and we should, I think, just go through and recap some things and maybe see if we can bat around some new ideas. So I am Beals, otherwise known as Andrew, and with me, as always, is my good friend Greg. What was it?
Hi.
Gregor. And so, yeah, I think, is there anything you want to say before I just sort of launch into it?
No, that's gumption. I like how you're ready to just go and plunge into this very spooky room here in this October 19th. Let's do it.
All right, fine, fantastic. So let's see. Well, this room actually, I should have looked this up beforehand. This room, well, if you're looking at it from an Abyss perspective, this room is currently listed as a 2-star room, and there's one confirmed solution right now, which I think is really probably one of the most elegant solutions that I think anybody has found in the whole maze so far. I think this one goes back to the days of the John Bailey site, and it concerns the musical notation over the doors here. Now, of course, we are in the loop here, and the ideal door to exit would be door 13, because if you were to go through door 3, you would sort of get wound into the inner circles of the loop, and you'd be meandering for quite a while, and pretty much the only way you could get back out onto the main ring of the loop and return to room 1 would be to get to room 13 anyway. So clearly room 13 is a preferable choice here, and the solution, which I think is so strong, concern is the notes over the 2 doors and how we are supposed to interpret them based on the clef marks on either side. So the first of the four panels, the first one depicts the bass clef or F clef symbol, which lets us know that we should interpret the 2 notes over room 13 as being in the bass clef, whereas next we have the G clef, the treble clef marker, which tells us how we should interpret the notes over door 3. So when we look at the 2 notes over door 13, we see that they are in bass clef C and A, with the idea being that those are alphanumerically the 3rd and 1st letters of the alphabet. So we just flip it around a little bit and we get 1 and 3, 13. So it seems like a really strong correlation. Compared to that, the chord over door 3 could almost seem to be complete gibberish. In fact, it's not really. It's as I think Kontiki and Vince have been, and Mr. Gentile have been hashing out lately, it's actually an inverted C major chord. And so you could maybe spin something there about how, since it's C, again, you have the number 3, but my instinct is to think that Manson probably didn't intend for us to do any kind of musical sleuthing in quite that degree. I think that we're just expected to understand that the 1st and 3rd letters over 13 form a much stronger connection, and so we should use that to hone in on that as being the correct door.
Did I ask a question about
Yeah.
I haven't been tracking what's been going on at the bit. So has there been any suggestions as to why the notes are flipped like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. People have been sort of curious about that, because it does seem as though the most intuitive way to do it would be to just put them in the order of A, which would be the lower note, and then C, which would be the upper note. And so actually, I think you yourself suggested that maybe the ordering of C, A is supposed to the beginning of a sentence or the beginning of a phrase. See a, as in, do you see a something? This was a while ago. I still swear to that, but I think you could struggle to maybe fill something in the blank there, and so that's one possible way to deal with the seemingly reversed order. And then another, let's see, another thing that I thought, well, I do have another possible idea as to what's going on there, but maybe I'll get into that a little bit later. It ties into the bowling pin.
Okay, cool.
But,
Say one thing about that. So
Yeah.
if the configuration above 3 is actually a C chord, if that's the case, I think it's probably the case. So there's got to be something else in the room that maybe this has to do with your bowling pin that says why we should switch those or why we should go for the one that's kind of written backwards.
Yeah,
This is news to me that C major chord is there.
Yeah. The notes are, for anyone who doesn't know, the notes are from bottom to top, E, G, C, E, which is an inverted, it's an inverted C major chord. And so since it's C, and since C is letter number 3, you could argue for there being something there. I still maintain that could be a little bit too much for me to expect his readers to know about musical theory, and that he maybe just wanted to squash in a big scary chord to make people realize, no, this can't be correlated to C in the same way that that A and C correlate to 13. But as we discover more about that chord, there could be more intention there, but it just seems a little bit of a reach for Manson to
expect people to know, like the short stories of Edgar Allan Poe.
I guess you're right.
I mean, I think there's a very simple solution to this room that doesn't require any musical knowledge at all as well. But you said it was an inverted C major chord. What's that?
I wish I could tell you more exactly about this because I haven't studied music theory since high school and I forgot a lot of it. But I think basically the idea of inversion is that you take the upper 2 notes and you move them down into the next octave down. And so what would be, well, it's close to that. Maybe it's modified a little bit more than that, but I think the basic C major chord would be what? C, E, G, C, I suppose. And instead we write those notes down. We start instead on E, and we have, so instead of having a C to C, we have an E to E, but it's still considered a C major chord. It's just inverted.
Because that's very striking to me. That so we have the notes above 13, which are reversed.
Yeah.
Right. We have an inversion of the C chord.
Yeah.
Right. Inversion is kind of like a reversal in a different dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both kind of reversed in a way. I don't think that's going to be a coincidence. I mean, there's a reason he picked the notes he did there. I don't know what else to say about that except that seems like a 8-legged chair to me, or a 9-legged chair. There's something there. But go on. I just wanted to stop you there because that's.
Yeah, it's still something that is continuing to be discussed until now, and probably we'll figure out more about it as more people who are more knowledgeable about music theory weigh in. So yeah, it's a bit of a hot topic right now, is seeing if there's more to unpack there. So let me see. Well, so still staying on the subject of these these staves over the doors, a question arises, and I think it was Vince who first verbalized this question, which is why could there have been any intention behind the decision to have the staff over door 13 kind of slanting downward and have the staff over door 3 slanting upward? And Vince tossed this out there. Didn't generate much discussion. He made what I thought was a pretty interesting correlation, which was that he correlated it with the slats on the backs of the 2 chairs. And we can see we have the chair that's positioned right in front of door 13. You have the slats that are running in a downward slope from our perspective, much like over door 13. And in the other chair, we see the darker slats that are running upward from our perspective, as in the door 3. And so he tossed that out there. I think he did almost all of the work. Maybe he could have gone even further to say what he probably thought was just too obvious to say, which is, oh, this is a light versus dark thing again, where we should pick the lighter chair, the one that illuminated by the fire from my perspective. So we should pick that one. So we should pick 13 instead of picking 3. Maybe that was all White Raven wanted to hear or whatever, but that seems like you could go all the way with that and make that pretty coherent argument, because it does. I do really like the correlation that he noticed between the two distinctly different angles of the staves versus the two distinctly different angles of the slats on the backs of the chairs. So that's another interesting thing that's been. I think that particular point.
Shadows dance across the floor in with that as well.
Yeah. There's been that line. We'll have to come back to that. That line has been. People have tried to do a lot with that line. So, and here's another. Let's throw out another a very big point that's often taken as, I'm not sure that I agree with it personally myself, but it seems to be becoming sort of received knowledge about, which is that when you look into the exposed passageway beyond the curtain of door 13, the open curtain, you see that it's not in fact just sheer darkness, but rather you can make out sort of this perhaps peel. It suggests that there's some kind of additional hanging, and people have suggested that perhaps the idea here is that this is actually an extra curtain that you're supposed to duck behind, and so this
can that. And it says that in the text there, ducking behind a curtain and hurrying down the passage. That's the simple solution to this room. You don't have to know anything about the music. You just read that last line. You see there's a curtain there. It's just if you can see that curtain, you see that's the way to go.
Well, I agree, because the curtain over room 3 would work just as well. I think Vince
duck behind it in the same way. It's a half curtain, so you literally duck, go underneath.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that has been said, and that does make it seem rather stronger. I personally, I guess we're probably going to want to agree to disagree on this, but I personally have always had a hard time seeing that as a curtain. I report this theory, but to me that looks more like something that's affixed to the wall, like a poster, a peeling poster, or a peeling bit of wallpaper. I find it a little bit hard to see.
You see the rod? Look at the curtain rod.
You mean
the curtain rod
for door 13?
Yeah. So if you look at the left of that, you can see the rope for the curtain.
If you look to the left of the rod?
Yeah, well, the left side of the rod. So I'll kind of point here. I don't know if you can see this. Right there, there's a rope. And that rope is holding up the curtain.
Holding up the curtain that the curtain that we all see, the foreground curtain, right?
No, it's holding up the black curtain, because the curtain we all see is pulled to the side. It's not connected.
Are you sure that this is a rope and not just a ring where the pole is fastened into the wall?
It looks like a rope to me, like it's going down to the curtain, but that could just be receiving differently too.
I do. It does sort of have little. It has little segments. It has little lined off segments that do kind of suggest a rope. So maybe that could be a rope. I never saw it that way. I thought it was just sort of the fastener where it.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, and you could be right, because now I'm looking at the curtain to the left of it, that's in the unmarked door below the base flat. Right. That also to kind of have a thing like that.
But then the one underneath the G clef, it's harder to see. So you still could be right about this.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure. But anyway, yeah, that's a big idea. It's not one that I personally feel is great about, but it definitely merits mentioning in any discussion of this room. So, and was there anything else that I really wanted to say about that? No, not particularly. So another big topic that's come up recently that I should get into is the bowling pin, which has generated a bit of discussion lately. Hidden Mystery made a suggestion that I actually think is pretty solid. He then seemed not to understand why people were talking about musical notation, so he lost points there. But he made a suggestion that I kind of like, which is that he took the very brightly illuminated brim of the hat as an O. which is really easy. And then he combines that with the bowling pin to form O pin, which, of course, in many American dialects, including sort of my own, it's very hard to pronounce O pin and O pin differently when you're O pen differently when speaking normally. And so he thinks that that's he thinks it's fair to therefore combine them in that way and form the word open, and therefore take that as a clue that we should go to the door with the visibly open curtain. And there's I'm sorry, what was that?
And that would mean the line, someone's lost its hat. Are you sure it's the hat that is lost? It's the O that's lost in the pin.
Oh, interesting. That's one way to look at that. That's one way to read that text.
Because like anytime you have you're just combining two elements in the room, you kind of want something to back it up, and you often that's going to be in the text.
Exactly. This is one of the pushback that that Hidden Mysteries idea has gotten. That some people, such as Vince, feel that it's just sort of too arbitrary of a combination. Although Vince himself then said, well, in room 45, there was quite a lot that sort of seems arbitrary at first glance that you have to combine. So there's perhaps some precedent for that. Another bit of feedback, another bit of sort of pushback has come from people such as Kontiki, and other people have mentioned this idea as well. I think perhaps Janice, way back in the day, suggested that maybe the hat should just be taken as a hat and combined with the pin to form a hat pin. But nobody really has any idea what to do with that. So that sort of idea hasn't really gone anywhere for the time being. But basically, as I said, I do like Hidden Mysteries observation, because I really do feel that the O that you see, you can't unsee that O from the hat. It's just so much more brightly illuminated, and it's not really consistently illuminated with the rest of the hat. You would suppose that perhaps the bottom sort of half of the brim would be darker in the same way that the bottom half of the, whatever you'd call it, the pipe of the hat is. And instead it's all very bright and really leaps off the page. And one thing that I was thinking is that perhaps this is supposed to be a little bit of a red herring for us, that we're supposed to see that O. And what I mean to say is perhaps if somebody has started to realize that the rooms on the path are supposed to cue us for particular letters, somebody might see this and be deceived into thinking that this room is on the path. And so
like an ultra meta trickery there.
Yeah, it just seems you can really do something with that brim of the hat as being an O. Perhaps there's more to be said on that front. But as far as the bowling pin, another thing, a couple of little things about bowling pin. One is that I think it was Vince who suggested, he just threw out there, there's not really anything there, but I just figured it was worth mentioning the fact that the curtain for door 13 is pinned back, we might suppose, and then we have the pin there. Again, some weird ideas about what to do with this word pin, but one thing that I think definitely merits discussion is just the mere presence of a bowling pin, and the fact that he chose a bowling pin to give us this word pin as opposed to other like safety pins or that kind of thing. The choice of a bowling pin seems very deliberate when you look back at row 8, which has, I think, I don't know how much you agree about this, but I think it's starting to become accepted that there's a distinct bowling theme there between not only the bowling pin itself, but
Alex was doing that, I remember.
I'm sorry, what?
I remember Alex was big on that.
I figured about too. The other thing I was going to say is the candlestick suggests candle pin bowling. So I think whether or not it was part of any solution, I think could be still. People have tried to stretch some really some tenuous solutions out of that, but I think that just as an aesthetic, as a choice that he was making in terms of laying out room 8, I think that there was a deliberate sort of bowling motif.
It's a bowling flavor, bowling miasma. So this bowling pin here is pretty obvious. It's a pin that's 3 letters. It looks like a 1, 1, 3, boom, 13. Move on.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. I was going to say, in room 8, the other interesting thing to say about the placement of the bowling pin there is that it's right by room 31, which is not the correct, right by door 31, which is not the correct door to take by any means. But it's interesting that you see in room 8 a bowling pin standing by door 31, and here you have a bowling pin standing over third. And that was
Good, yeah.
that was actually what I was going to say. Could be, I mean, maybe just to have a little bit of fun and throw a little bit more interconnectivity in between the rooms. That might have been why Manson chose to order those two notes as CA rather than AC, because look at it and you can get 13 out of it, but really sort of literally it means 31. And so you actually have two doors in the maze that are marked 31 and have a bowling pin sitting next to them. He may have just tossed that out there as a fun little connection.
Up in there, definitely. That's great.
Yeah, it's a possibility as to why the notes are reversed.
Yeah, that's really fun.
So let me just click on.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, what? No, go ahead.
I'm still just gonna go. No, it really just jabbering. Go for it, please.
If you want to say anything else
From my work.
If you want to say anything else about the bowling pin, go ahead now, because that's all I have to say.
Let it go.
All right, so here I'll just move to another, just few sort of miscellaneous observations. People have tried to do a lot with the shadow, the very long shadow that the chair in the middle of the picture casts over the right of the picture. There's a lot that you can try to make there. People have definitely sensed that there could be some letters in there. You can really see an A very distinctly. You can also pretty easily make it E or an F or other sort of straight line letters that you want to conjure up out of that. And so people have batted that around, not really gotten anywhere with it, but I think it's worth mentioning. Other things that people have tried to do with the shadows include maybe trying to read those 4 long lines as also being a musical stave, although you would really need 5 lines. And Vince suggested, maybe if he wanted us to do that, maybe he could have given the bowling pin a long shadow to go along with that and make a 5th line. But since he didn't do that, and since we only have 4 lines, probably there's nothing to find going down that route. Although another musical idea that Alex actually sent to me just this evening, he thinks that again, this is very sort of not fully formed, it's just an idea, but he thinks maybe you could see those 4 lines as forming the strings and the fretboard of a guitar, and he thinks maybe you could get somewhere with that in terms of the musical notation that's so important in this rep. And there's
viol.
Sorry, what?
It wouldn't be a guitar; it'd be a viol.
Oh, the guitar.
That kind of bass-like thing.
Guitars have to have 5 strings. I forgot.
Guitars have 6 strings.
6 strings. Well, fuck me.
Yeah. No.
Well, the violin surely has 4 strings. I'm not making that up, am I?
No. Violin does it, and the viol is the 4-stringed instrument that's in. Well, violin's in here too. Viol's in 36. 36 is in the drum. Violin, there's one in 33, is it?
Yeah, in a sign. Oh no, actually, yeah, the one that's actually in there. Yeah,
that could actually be a viol singing. Doesn't really say it's violin.
And it's a curious 3-string violin, which I thought was a pointer to room 3. But yeah, if violins are classically supposed to have 4 strings, then again, that's something you could do there with a stringed instrument and a fretboard, and maybe you could somehow turn that into some kind of supporter of the musical notation or some related puzzle. But again, that's very much a fledgling idea. I'm just throwing it out there. As for some other things, well, let's see. We've got from Vince, we've got shadows danced across the floor to the fire's music.
The shadows are the effect. The fire is the cause. So that's why I don't think the shadows are going to be an instrument. Oh no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm moving away from the visual depiction of the. I should think of that connection with that. I wouldn't. My first thought wouldn't be to go for an instrument for those shadows, because the shadows are dancing fire with. So go on. You're dropping Vince.
This is an unrelated point to the visual shadows. Vince just threw out that if we're supposed to be looking at the fire's music, he takes that as perhaps a pointer to that we should be paying attention to the music in the F clef, fire giving us F. So we should look at room 13 rather than room 3. So that's just another small observation. Another one that Vincent Gentile tossed around, which I think is pretty good, is that we have a much warmer room, and we've already seen in, what was it? Is it room 3? No, it's room 3, isn't it? With the backwards, forwards, stop pots room, and so on. We've seen, and I think this is pretty good, that you have sort of a warmer, colder idea going on there that's supposed to cue you to the right door. Which I think, in fact, is this one, isn't it? It's 1 door 18. Yeah, 1 door 18. And so Vince and Mr. Gentile suggest that we should also here be picking the warmer door, which is the door that's closer to the fire, which is door 13. So that's just another little thing. We have a couple of things from Kontiki. We have Kontiki noticing that both in the first paragraph and in the last paragraph of the text, we have 13 words, which he thinks could be a pointer to 13. White Raven liked that observation, but thought perhaps it wasn't really motivated enough. We didn't have enough of a reason to sense that we should be counting words. But I think it's worth throwing out there. Another thing that Kontiki noticed that White Raven thinks is on the right track, not quite there, is he noticed that the 2 columns that are flanking door 13 are much better lit than any of the other columns in the room, whether they're closer to or farther from the fire. And we've seen that light and dark obviously can play a big role in some of these solutions. So there could be something there. I'm not really sure how to follow through with that or add to that, but it seems that if White Raven has a solution in mind concerning that, it seems as though that's the case, and that we just need to work on that a little bit more to get something out of there. And so I want to talk about the dragon, but I won't talk about the dragon. I'll save that for last. I'll share my own new solution first. Here's something that I found. People have tried to do very, very many things concerning the 2 chairs. They've tried to count 1s and 3s all over the place as much as they possibly can with the posts and the slats and the supporting, horizontal posts of the chairs and everything. And all throughout, I've always thought that it was a little dodgy because you really have to come up with a very rock solid 1 to 3 to avoid just falling into a 3 and thinking, okay, how is Manson supposed to expect us to get 1 3 instead of 3 out of that? So I've been pretty dissatisfied with most of the solutions that have concerned trying to do things like counting things with the chairs. But I found something that I think is really pretty solid, and I want to, at the risk of crashing, I feel sort of Alex levels of confidence in this one, and I want to maybe see, Greg, if you can, if I sort of nudge you in that direction, I want to see if maybe you can find it.
Okay.
That sound good to you? So take a look at the middle chair, the one that's in front of door 13.
Yeah.
So if I told you that I see a letter of the alphabet in the seat of the chair, would you be able to find which one I'm thinking of?
Maybe. Let me look. I could see some possible letters. I'm probably not seeing the one you're thinking of. I could see a V, maybe.
You could justify a V. The one that I'm thinking of is an X, because it seems to be 2 diagonal lines.
Yeah, I can see the X too.
This happens that with the shading, it's a little bit indistinct. But it seems to me that if you have an X, if you can find an X in here, what else would you be looking for in this chair?
Well, X is a 10, so you could look for a 3 if you're trying to do that.
So you could maybe just sort of follow up the chair
and see the 3 slaps on the back.
Yes. I think that that's an X and a 1 1 1. So I think that's a 13, and it actually resonates with the concept of give us Roman numeral 13 in the wooden posts upholding the statue. I think that's pretty solid, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just another nice hidden number. So
yeah, no, that's good.
So I think that's
well done.
Yeah, I think that's worth posting. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the chairs. So the So yeah, pretty much the last topic, the only final topic that I want to address in this recap is the dragon, which people have thought a lot about because it's such a distinct element, and yet it seems very hard to fit into any kind of. It seems hard to make it interact with anything else. I don't know if at first I thought maybe it was just chosen as sort of a little joke because the mouth of the fireplace is literally breathing fire, so we get a dragon. But people have made suggestions for more meaningful things, at least concerning the shape. People have noticed that the shape is very symmetrical between the neck and the tail. They seem to go together, and they almost seem to want to go together to form a figure eight. And if the dragon were biting his tail, then we would get a nice figure eight. And so people have tossed this out. Kontiki, I should credit that to Kontiki. I believe that he was the one who most thoroughly verbalized that idea. And it seems to me that that's very interesting. It seems to resonate with the image of the broken key in room 38. We had a broken key over there that was a map, and we have over here a broken figure eight. And it would be really cool if the loop were shaped like a figure eight, or if this room were on the path. I think you could see that as possibly a very deliberate, similar idea. Unfortunately, since the loop isn't actually, an infinity symbol, or there's no way to map it that's satisfactory like that, there's probably not anything there. But I just wanted to toss the dragon out there because it's definitely, it can just be a totally arbitrary design. I mean, it just seems very thematically meaningful, and it seems to have some distinct choice going on in the shape that seems worth dwelling upon.
Well, in light of your chair solution, could you find something that looks vaguely like a 1 next to that 8 shape? Because we're in room 18 right now. So it could be that you're thinking, oh, that looks like an 8 if I turn it sideways. And then, you see deals of X with the 3 1s next to it.
That's very possible. You could justify, I mean, you could, I don't want to justify, that's a strong word. You could throw out a 1 being either of the wooden pieces of the panel that are surrounding the dragon. That doesn't seem very strong, but I like the idea. It would be awesome if there were a clean 1 somewhere in there. Yeah, because people do want that to be an 8. They want it to be. They've talked about how like you could break up an 8 into a 1 and a 3 by like just carving off one half of it and straightening out into a line, leaving the rest of the curves. Yeah, it's a reach. I mean, people have tried to do a lot, and so that's final in this room that's really hasn't got a whole lot going on in it. That's
about the face. I mean, you got your finger on the pulse of the face. Don't people have anything to say about that gaping face?
Oh yeah, the gap. Well, yeah, I could talk about that. One thing that people have talked about with the face is that people have recalled from their high school music theory days the mnemonic FACE, which on the G clef.
Face itself face.
Sorry, what?
Face itself face.
Yeah, that's how you spell it. You spell it with the letters FACE, in fact, and those are the notes that are in between the lines on a G clef stave. So the notes that follow the lines are what? E, G, B, D, F. But F, the top F. But in between them, you have starting from the bottom and working up, you have an F, an A, a C, an E. So again, people have corroborated this with the musical notation solutions. It seems a little strange that would fit with the G clef, considering that that's the one that we're supposed to avoid. Although you could just say, this is a scary ass face. We tend not to want to go near fire. So if this is supposed to lead us to the G clef, that should be a pointer away from the G clef. And then as you
we have a set of assumptions: one that you want to stay away from what's warm, and another one that you want to go towards what's warm.
True, that's a bit of a conflict. You probably don't want to accept.
Just come up with these assumptions to do this or that. You get a little lost.
Yeah, you don't want both of them. You wouldn't want a set of solutions that would try to incorporate both of those, because that would be weird. So perhaps there's nothing to that face thing. Perhaps it's just a coincidence. But another thing that people have talked about is, as you say, people have mentioned the gap in the teeth. People have pointed out that the teeth look a little bit like the keys of a piano, which could again fit the music idea. And yeah, people have observed the gap, not been able to do a whole lot with it, as far as I know. Perhaps you have something you want to say. Perhaps you have something you want to say about the face generally.
No, I don't. You just were going through all the different elements and kind of the elements of the room that draw your eye the most are the dragon and the face,
Definitely.
and those seem to be the ones people have the say about.
Yeah, it's curious.
And spooky.
White Raven. I mean, I know that you're not very, you don't hew much to the abyss, but I thought I should just throw this out there. White Raven has said that metaphor. He put down metaphor as being the number one class of puzzle solution. He says that more of them function. Like I think he counted more than 40 metaphoric solutions. I don't know how much any of us would like all of those, but it seems to me that perhaps the face and maybe even the dragon are more supposed to function on a metaphorical, more of a thematic level than anything else, as opposed to more fine, more granulated solutions such as the musical notation solution. And yeah, don't really know. I don't have any personal take on the face this time.
Right on. Do we go through the text? Do you want to talk about the text?
Yeah, we can move on to the text. That's pretty much all of my recap.
All right, that was good. You were very comprehensive.
Yeah, in fact, I was so comprehensive that I'm starting to lose my voice a little. Do you want to read the text for us?
I'd love to read the text.
Please.
We start with no lips, like we often do. A much warmer room. So, let's talk about that sentence. I always thought that was a scene and it towards heat. I think it's one of the instances where the rooms talk to each other. They kind of saying, "You got it, guy. You got it. You picked the right room when you went to 18." Just a little bit of encouragement.
You did if you came from room 3. Again, if you were having the warmer, colder thing, then you would know that you made the correct choice then.
Yeah. Yep. And you had said something else about that line, a much warmer room. Oh, the door closest to the fire would be the one to go.
Seems kind of straightforward.
Right. Oh, here's interesting. Okay, so have you ever played that game, Hot or Cold, where you're trying to find something, and you're getting warmer. If you're getting closer to it, and you're getting colder.
That's the reasoning that's been discussed in room 3. The idea that we're supposed to go to the warm water of the radiator and the sun. And we're supposed to go away from the cooler water in the pots. And I really am losing my voice. And the colder moon as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's very definitely brought up in relation here.
But here, so there's actually connections within the text. So there's all this stuff about things being lost later on in the text, and we'll get to that. So maybe there's a connection there between the getting warmer and someone's lost something. So
yeah, it's curious because this is an idea that I just find very amusing. I feel like I couldn't find it anywhere mentioned in the abyss, but it's not my own idea. Somebody has mentioned this before. The interpretation of the well, I'll hold on from that. Maybe you want to keep reading.
Okay.
It involves text later on, so I should.
Okay. Does it involve a much warmer room?
It does not involve a much warmer.
Okay, we'll move on. Shadows danced across the floor to the fire's music. Now, this is a particularly poignant line that seems to that you want to read a lot from, and it's the only one that really mentions the fire too. It feels like it should tie in together the whole room because it's got fire, it's got shadow, it's got music.
Exactly.
Which is kind of a lot of the big elements there. But again, like we've already kind of talked about this line, not a lot's been made of it.
Probably there's a solution that takes us from that to door 13, but people have done a lot of thinking about that line. We're still not there yet.
Yeah. Someone's lost his hat. Interesting. We don't know who said that. I guess it's one of the visitors. So someone's lost his hat. There's a hat there, and I'm going to just go ahead and keep reading because I think these lines are very connected and it's kind of hard to talk about one without the other. Are you sure it's the hat that is lost? I asked reasonably enough. No one would answer me. Okay, so the guide is implying that something else is missing. So we have a number of things that are missing here. We have the top of the face's head. We have the dragon is potentially lost if he's turning in on its tail. We have the tooth that's missing. It could be that bowling pin that's lost. Where's my alley? Where are the gunners? My 9 friends. We have top hat. Could be lost. He lost his hat. And he's running around the maze. Another thing about that hat, it's pointing towards 13, so that could be like a indicator of Top Hat's path. There's kind of a series, you can kind of trace Top Hat running through the maze. Top Hat the man, not Top Hat the hat.
Of course. Well, yeah, this is where I wanted to mention another rather amusing and also disturbing idea that I've heard suggested somewhere is that perhaps the man who wore the hat was actually swallowed up into the fireplace, and so he was lost in that way. Why did I want to say that? I wanted to say that because
it's scary to get burned alive.
It's spooky. It's October.
One of them was a man who caught flame.
Well, engulfed. He was swallowed right up. No, the interesting thing there is you would sort of have to discard that idea if you wanted to go with your whole warmer, colder thing. If going closer, you have 2 different ideas here. You have the idea that going closer to the fireplace is warmer and it's therefore closer to being on the right path. But with that little amusing short scary story idea, you have going closer to the fireplace means that you are closer to becoming lost, as a somebody that is going to be spoken of as lost, a lost soul. So that's just another way of thinking about the fireplace as being something dangerous rather than something that you want to approach.
Or maybe it's a matter of moderation. You want to be kind of midway between the fireplace. You want to be warm, but you don't want to be hot.
You want to be like Icarus.
Yeah. I'm going to sit in that chair right by 13 because that's good. A good length. Fire.
Warm your toes up a little bit and then carry on.
An overlooked line in the series, the someone's lost his hat, blah, 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 is no one would answer me. That seems like a line that could be, it says one. He's like, it's one of those lines that, he's like, it might be sneaking in a clue. Most of the stuff that's about what's lost, but the fact that he mentioned that no one would answer him, could very well be a clue in of itself.
Yeah, it's a good line. It's very atmospheric. I haven't thought of it as being potentially supplying a solution, but it's very possible. I will say that it is tempting to pull that one out of the text and get the one that we need for 13, but I think we've seen that it's a little hard to draw the line. You start going down that. You don't know which rooms to apply that logic to and which rooms not to apply that logic to, because words like
you just apply it to every room.
That would
all one, all circles are 0.
Perfect. Great. Oh, how about stripes on couches? Could they also be 1s and 0s?
Yep, they are. Not could, they are.
Got it. No, I shouldn't have been too shy about that. I should have known better.
Yeah, you know, Maze.
I know.
So no one would answer me. Me rhymes with 3, 1, 3. There you go. Ducking behind a curtain and hurrying down a passageway we came out in. And I think that's pretty solid with the curtain solution, but I'm you don't see it, and I think that it's surprising. I kind of thought it was obvious, but now that we have talked about that curtain, I see how it might not be a curtain. It could be no.
It's just it's hard for me to see that as being something that's hanging down in front of the passageway that you therefore need to duck beneath. It just seems like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid because I guess the way I've seen it as a poster or a bit of wallpaper would require that the angle of the wall be rather
Be like,
we're off at a pretty remarkable angle, which doesn't really jive with the other doors that it's sitting alongside. The one interpretation there could be that, well, no, I'm going to revoke that before I even say it because I don't think, revoking that comment before I even say it, because that would be really stupid. So, yeah, I guess maybe it's harder to defend my idea that it's something attached to the wall of the corridor. It's just how I've always seen it. It's hard for me to see that. I guess if it were hanging sort of parallel or closely parallel with the curtains that we see, I guess I would want to see more of a vertical line to distinguish out.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, it's not hanging flush because it's like instead of being draped over the rod, it's tied to either end. So it's kind of got this bowing. You can see that in the line, like it. If you imagine it being, hung up on a rope to either side of the rod, right? It makes sense that it would be in the shape that it is in. But
it would be. It's harder to imagine what. Well, I guess here's another thing that that has made it hard for me to accept it as a curtain is that bit that seems to taper upward. Am I wrong about that? It seems like it curls upward or it peels upward, which
at the bottom, yeah.
I mean, I think the only way you could justify that with the curtain is if it were like hooked at the bottom on that side and hooked at the top, like it were hooked not at the top on both sides, but at the top and the bottom, and then it were pulled up by the rope. It seems a little convoluted.
Yeah. No, you could be right. You could be right. I'm less sure of that solution having talked to you.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Okay.
I'm less sure of my less sureness, so I think this was probably a very productive episode.
Yeah. We're both more wishy-washy than we were before.
It's awesome.
Where are you gonna be? I really think it's not good to be too certain of things.
Well, I guess not. Except for Fable. We can be certain of Fable.
Fable. Oh, right. Yeah, that's the right way to go.
That's just about the only one. Something else, speaking of Fable, something else I was going to say is that I'm going to make a little personal confession here. I respect, but I have never loved the solution in 26 that, and this is related back to 18, I'm going to relate this back. I've never loved the solution in 26 that hinges on reading the bell as giving us a 0. I think that the brim of the hat here with the lighting and with the much wider shape of the brim, I think that gives us a much more solid O/0/ring or whatever else we want to do with that than the 26. But that's just my.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know if we're missing anything. It seems like we
didn't talk about logs at all, or andiron.
Yeah, people have talked about the logs. I'm not really feeling the logs, but people have talked about the logs. People have tried to count the logs. People have tried to make 13 out of the logs somehow, which is hard because there are 5 of them. So you can't really say that there's 3 in one. Actually, there are 6. The hat is resting on the 6th, isn't it? So.
Yep.
So
there's a lot of pairs of 3s in that room.
You could see that. Yeah, there are a lot of clusters of 3.
And the 6th tooth that's missing.
Oh, sorry. Which tooth do you think is missing?
The 6th. You're going to the left.
One right in the center.
Well, it's not in the center. It's the 6th one. There's 9 teeth. There's 5 on one side and 4 on the other. So if there were 10 teeth, it would be the 6th one.
We'd be expecting another one on the very far, on the faces, on the right of the face as we see it. You'd be expecting one more tooth down in there.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been just a space thing, but I suppose there could be something there.
Oh, you can actually see the gum. If you look closely, you can kind of see it's more than just kind of no, that's a tooth. It's just a shadow, and never mind, I'm babbling.
I sort of saw what you saw, but yeah, that could just be shit.
Yeah, it's shading. All right. Well, I think we covered it. We didn't solve all of your fears, but hopefully we've illuminated some more of this strange and spooky world that is the maze. And I don't know whether or not the more we learn, whether that it's actually more comforting or whether that just helps us know how much more we don't know. And
it helps us comprehend the Lovecraftian monstrosity that we are truly face to face with here, and helps us sort of realize how very helpless and just completely vulnerable we are in the face of this sheer cosmic terror that is this book.
Yeah. But even as we are kind of doomed in a way, it's kind of nice that we can find a nice warm chair and have a seat.
Absolutely. Just wait for the end.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, that fireplace, it looks nicer and nicer the more I look at it. I'm almost tempted to just inch a little bit closer and maybe just go for it.
I'd cozy up to that cheek.
Absolutely. Well, I think that ends another spooky episode of our spooky Halloween month-long fest extravaganza. I think we're coming up on the last Friday of the month, are we not?
Yeah. Halloween.
Is my sense of time distorted? Because
you're right.
Well,
a week from now is Halloween.
Fantastic. So I figured out how time works in reality. So that would mean that the topic of the next episode will be another favorite of mine, Room 31, which is truly the most grim and grisly and ghastly and gregarious room in the entire maze. It is the perfect capper to our month-long celebration of all that is terrifying and disquieting.
It's also a very cold room, right? I would say it's probably the coldest room in the maze.
Very chilly.
Yeah. So enjoy your time by the fire, folks, because next time you're gonna get chilled to the very bone.
Yeah, you're gonna wish that big terrifying face were in room 31. That would be a relief. Well, I guess that's it. You want to sing us out?
Let it go. Here I stand, and here I fall. Let the storm rage on. The cold